When it comes to difficulty creating a unified front in presidential politics, all the focus has been on the Republicans. But it's becoming more and more clear that the Democrats may have problems of their own. Last night, Bernie Sanders claimed victory in Oregon while losing narrowly in Kentucky. Despite formidable odds when it comes to delegate math, the Vermont senator is committed to staying in the race through the Democratic National Convention.
We just won Oregon. And we're going to win California. I am getting to like the West Coast.
Bernie Sanders doesn't believe he's just running a campaign. He's launched a movement filled with some supporters who don't believe Hillary Clinton should be the party's standard bearer under any circumstances. Things hit a boiling point when Nevada Democrats met this past weekend. It looked more like the WWF. Those feeling the burn are accused of rushing the stage and hurling insults at the party chairwoman. This has set off a new round of accusations, Sanders claiming the party hierarchy is showing signs of favoritism, and Clinton supporters saying Sanders isn't denouncing threatening behavior of those behind him strongly enough. Could the Republicans start looking like the grown-ups? But there are serious questions here. Will the Democrats be able to eventually rally behind their candidate, and what does Bernie Sanders really want? Joining me to discuss are Andrea Cabral. She's a Hillary Clinton supporter, former Secretary of Public Safety, and a delegate to the convention.
I am.
Congratulations. And Phil Johnson, former chair of the state Democratic Party, used to work for Bill Clinton, but he's with Sanders this year. Delegate to the convention?
I am. And on the Rules Committee.
Oh, you are?
I am.
Oh, my goodness, whatever that means.
Well,
So let me start
we'll
with
see.
you. So there's this growing body of thinking among some that the longer it goes, the more bitter it goes, the harder it's going to be for people like you to decide to support her candidate when she wins the nomination, which she will. Do you buy into that thinking or no?
Well, no. I mean, I think that we're going to have a unified party come the end of July. And I think Bernie's going to go through this process, which he's earned. He's done phenomenally well, particularly given where he started. Yeah. And he will have won about at least 45% of the votes
But that's not
in
my
those
question.
states.
Will those people in Nevada we just saw say, we lost fair and square, now we're going to support
Well,
her
I think
candidate?
a lot of them are going to follow Bernie, and I think I know Bernie is going to be out there, as many of the rest of us are going to be out there beating the drums for Hillary if she's a nominee and against Donald Trump.
How do you know Bernie Sanders is going to do what
He said
says
that. He said that repeatedly. He said from day one that he will support whoever the nominee is, and he said we cannot have Donald Trump in the White House.
You worry about this?
I'm concerned and disappointed by Bernie Sanders' behavior.
Which behavior in particular?
Well, let's start with the most recent, which is the failure to specifically denounce the behavior in Nevada. The behavior in Nevada,
He did denounce it.
He didn't denounce it strongly enough.
And he also denounced it at the end of a statement in which he says how unfairly his people have been treated. And then he says at the end,
Right.
I denounce any of that
He
kind of
denounced the
behavior.
party at great length in his speech, and then went on
Yeah,
to
that
sort
is
of
correct.
say perfunctorily that he doesn't condone any violence. That's not enough. And his repeatedly telling people that he has a path to this nomination is simply untrue. He doesn't have a path to the nomination, and he has spent increasingly, if you look at it fairly, the bulk of his time criticizing Hillary Clinton versus the issues that he claims to be so strong on and claims to care about.
But do you feel it feels right, and Bernie Sanders is all in, whenever he becomes all in, that these differences are going to disappear?
I am hopeful that that will happen. I think the sooner that he recognizes that his behavior is making a very damning statement about his leadership, I think the sooner that happens, the better it will be for the party.
He's been winning, and it isn't his responsibility to help Hillary Clinton's campaign. His responsibility is to continue to push his agenda. He has a policy agenda, and I think we're all familiar with the 5 or so key issues that we want to see in the platform, and he has a rules reform agenda to straighten out the rules of the Democratic Party.
Can I tell you, I understand the reasons why you're worried. Let me give you one more and see how you react to this. This is actually a discussion we had in the newsroom the other day. You know, Hillary Clinton says practically every time she's asked, Barack Obama lost a ton of the final primaries, yet all of my people, or a lot of my people, went to him. What some of the newsroom said, which I thought was pretty insightful the other day, the difference is they went from Hillary Clinton in 2008 to a guy who was leading a movement. This time, the guy who's leading the movement, such as it is the guy who's going to come in second. So are those movement, and you're nodding in agreement, are those movement people? I saw people on CNN last night, they know their guy's losing. They're at a California rally, standing in line in the heat for hours.
Yeah, but
they're
what is
ready
that
to come
about?
support
What is
her.
that about? That's not about his personality. That's about a policy agenda, which they have
And
bought
you're
into.
convinced they're going to say, even if she doesn't embrace the whole policy agenda, we'll embrace her? You buy
I think
that?
she'll embrace a good deal of it, Jim. I really do. And I think Andrea would support that. I think here in Massachusetts, just as an example, most of the people who are Hillary people and the people who are Sanders people agree on the majority of these issues.
Well, to that point, there's not a huge amount of difference in many of their positions, which is why his continuing to demonize Hillary Clinton serves no. He has continued to do it, Phil, and all you have to do is go to
Hillary
all
Clinton.
you have to do is go to the tape. I'm not
Andrea,
saying
this
it.
is child's play compared to what Trump is going to
That's
unload
not
on her.
the point. Someone who is not really a member of the party, who wants to change the way the party works, ought not to be demonizing the person who is clearly going to win. And then when all is said and done, saying, let's shake hands and make up. And I think, there's a difference between having passionate supporters and supporters who will become violent.
Oh, they're not
and
violent. Come on.
That's
There was-
exactly
the
what
one
happened in
person who was
Nevada.
arrested-
That's
Oh,
exactly
hold on,
what.
just a
There
minute.
were
The one
several
person
death
who was
threats.
arrested the other
There were
night was
several.
a Hillary Clinton
I
supporter.
got to hold you right there for a second, because speaking of Hillary Clinton, I want to talk about another member of her family. Here is the candidate, your candidate in Kentucky a couple of days ago.
I've already told my husband that if I'm so fortunate enough to be president, and he will be the first gentleman, I expect him to go to work.
And she said the work he's going to do, economic revitalization. He is more popular, 56% approval in a poll I saw this week, actually, than either candidate, not Bernie Sanders, but than the two front runners. But a caller on a radio show the other day said something that was interesting. He is your father's Oldsmobile. I mean, isn't there a worry that going back to the past with both Clintons has potential to turn off voters more than his involvement in her presidency will attract voters? Do you worry about that at all?
No, in any century and in any year, having someone who created 40 million jobs during his presidency come back and sort of
I think it was
help you with.
25, but it was a lot of jobs.
I think it was closer
Whatever
to
it was.
40.
Okay, yeah.
Having that person come back, and there's everyone, no matter how they feel about Bill Clinton, cannot deny that he is an absolute master when it comes to the economy. That's where it's the economy stupid
in the
kid,
90s,
right?
maybe. You worked for him. I mean, are you worried? I mean, you say you're going to endorse Hillary Clinton wholeheartedly when she wins the nomination. Are you worried about Bill Clinton's downside?
No, I'm with David Axelrod on this.
Which
I
is?
heard him last night
Saying
make
what?
this point, that it makes her look weaker as she turns the economic issues, that portfolio, over to her husband. I think she's making a mistake doing that just
So you
politically.
think it could hurt her?
Yeah, I do think that, people are going to be voting for her and her economic platform, not Bill Clinton's. And so I agree that we don't want to go back 20 years. That's not to
Wanna
say
look at
that
her
Bill,
face for a second?
that's not to say that Bill Clinton shouldn't play and will not play a role within the administration. But I think Hillary needs to stand out there on her own and be the strong candidate, which she's turning
the
out.
last 10 seconds,
She
that's
has
all we
stood
got.
out on her own on every single thing. If you look at any policy that she has, go to her website, you will see that she clearly does stand on her own. Taking talented people, and as she says, putting them to work, is only considered a weakness if the person who is taking those talented people is a woman. That is the
No, it has
only
nothing
reason.
to do with that.
No, it has absolutely everything
it has nothing
to do with
it. It has to do with whether or not the president of the
No.
United States is going to have his or her own economic policy
Of
and
course
implement
she
it
does.
himself.
All I
or
can
Of
say
course she
is
would.
thank goodness the party's coming together. Andrea Cabral, it's nice to see you.
I
Thank
agree with you
so
on
much.
that.
Phil Johnson,
Thanks,
it's good
Jim.
to see you
Good to
too,
see you.
Phil.